Well, welcome back to our Design and Destiny podcast, where we talk about living God's purpose for your life so that you can release God's power of love into the world. And if you're new to our Destiny Makers community, well, a special welcome to you. If you like what you hear, please consider subscribing to our weekly podcast and check out who we are and the resources that we offer on destinymakers.org. Well, today on Design and Destiny, I want to begin to talk about living your authentic self. Your authentic self. Now, sometimes the best way to describe something is to start with what it's not. Because sadly, in much of today's popular culture, the whole concept of being authentic has really become this rogue license to say whatever we want, whatever you're thinking at the moment, whatever you're feeling. It's like this unbridled expression of whatever you want, regardless of the consequences or the circumstances to yourself or others. It's basically just acting on every impulse and whim and then declaring, well, it's okay because I'm being authentic to myself right now, even if it hurts someone else. That's not being authentic. That's acting entitled. So what is the authentic self? If you look at the definition of authentic, it's something that was original in its design. In other words, what you were initially made for or made as. It's something that is genuine in nature, like the real deal. It's true and actual and undisputed and legitimate. Where, of course, the opposite of authentic is that which is false, or fake, or tainted, or contrived, illegitimate, or more of an imitation, kind of like those fake designer purses and jewelry and belts. You know, God's given you the real deal, and you're saying, well, I think it costs too much. I'll take the imitation. And God says, it won't cost you anything. I already paid for it. See, you're being your authentic self when you are naturally and non-consciously existing and engaging from your place of original design that God originally designed for you. It's when you're living fully without having to work so hard at it or think too much about it. You're kind of just in the flow. Now, in many areas of our lives, we've learned to behave in the flow. It's just that it's the flow of living inauthentically. You see, you were your most authentic self at birth. As a small child, before you began to be shaped by the opinions and attitudes and actions of the big people around you who told you their version of the truth, right? You were able to still dream and believe that all things were possible. And you lived in the freedom of who God originally designed you to be. As it says in Psalm 139, when God knit you together in your mother's womb, before you began to stifle that brilliant, exceptional creativity that God designed uniquely in your life for good works that God prepared in advance for you to do, as it says in Ephesians 2:10. In other words, you and I we correctly unlearn God's superior design for us, and we incorrectly learn inferior ideas about who you are. Now, that wasn't necessarily all your fault. I mean, think about it. As little kids growing up, we couldn't really discern real truth, even when the messages were hurtful and harmful to us. But nevertheless, what happened is we wound up exchanging the truth about ourselves and our capabilities for a lie. And the result is that we vastly underestimate our value and potential, and we underlive our lives far below God's design for us. And unless we reclaim our authentic self, we will continue to allow the enemy to steal and kill and destroy our destiny. I can't tell you, I have countless examples in my work with individuals and organizations over the past 20 plus years of people who, going through my programs, would have these moments of revelation about root cause lies that came into their life that they accepted about who they were, that have bound them for decades from becoming all that they were created to be. And then watching the joy and the freedom that they receive in releasing those, it's just beyond amazing and been such a privilege. See, the more that you learn to live from your authentic self, the more you'll restore your God-designed destiny. And 2 Corinthians 10:5 gives us instructions for how to begin. How to begin. And it's this: you need to begin to pay attention to your automatic, subconscious, incorrect thinking throughout the day so that you can capture false thoughts that war against the knowledge of God about you, and then begin to replace them with God's word of truth for you. So we'll talk more about this next week in our next podcast.